Hi everyone! This is a special How to Play episode of Firebreathing Kittens. I'm the Game Master for an upcoming session using the rules for LURPS, Lewis's Unified Roleplaying System. This episode is a summary of what I learned after reading the rulebook. Hopefully this will be a handy guide for how to play for my players, will help me organize myself, and will be useful for you listeners too who are looking to play your own LURPS game. I'll organize this How to Play guide into 10 sections. First, this is a classless point-by-d6 game. Second, it uses target numbers. Third, it uses critical successes and failures. Fourth section will be how to use a skill. Fifth section will be how to attack. Sixth section will talk about armor. Seventh section, distances. 8th section, how to cast magic. 9th section, flaws. And the last thing I'll talk about is how to build a character. The first section, LURPS is a classless point-buy system that uses only normal 6-sided dice. Classless means any character can learn any skill. Contrast that with a game where only rogues can learn how to pickpocket, or only clerics can learn how to heal, or only fighters can wield swords. Any LURPS character can wield any weapon and learn any skill. Point buy means you can spend character points to buy and learn new weapons and skills. The more points you spend, the better you are at that activity. And lastly, LURPS uses only 6-sided dice, which I will also call D6 going forward. Section 2, Target Numbers. You will determine your success or failure in LURPS by rolling 6-sided dice and counting how many of them meet or beat the difficulty. The standard difficulty check, also called a DC, is 4. For a DC of 4, each dice you roll that lands on a 1, a 2, or a 3 is a failure. Each dice that lands on a 4, a 5, or a 6 is a success. Every weapon, spell, and skill that you use will have a target number. The target is how many individually passing dice you need to overall succeed at the thing you're trying to do. For example, if your target number is 2, then you need at least 2 of the dice you roll to be a 4 or higher. The more dice you roll, the more likely you are to hit your target number. If you only rolled 1 dice, it would be impossible to achieve a target of 2. If you were rolling 2 dice, then it's possible for both of them to be a 4 or higher, and for you to be successful, but the odds aren't great. The higher the target number is, the more dice you need to roll. The probability math is pretty straightforward, because each dice you roll has a 50-50 chance to hit a 1, 2, or 3, compared to a 4, 5, or 6. So for each 1 target number, you'll want to roll 2 dice in general. Of course, the more dice you roll, the more likely you are to hit your target number. It's reasonable to expect to hit a target number of 2 rolling 4 dice. It's even more likely if you roll 6 dice. There are some in-game ways to change the difficulty number. For example, lock-picking tools make the lock-picking DC 3 instead of 4. Section 3, Critical Successes and Failures. Rolling a 6 or a 1 on the dice are special occurrences. 1s are special because they cannot be re-rolled. When you roll a 6, you can choose to re-roll a failed dice. If you re-roll a 4 and it becomes a 6, that's another chance to re-roll one of your other dice. It can get very exciting. The more 6s you have, the better, because if you roll more 6s than the target number, that is a critical success. A critical success in combat means you deal full damage. Here is an example. Your target number is 2. You are rolling 4 dice. You roll a 1, a 2, a 3, and a 6. That 1 is a bit of a bummer. It cannot be re-rolled. The 2 and the 3 are failures, but with your 6, you can re-roll one of them. So you choose to re-roll the 3. The dice with a 3 on it, when re-rolled again, becomes a 6. That's awesome. Now you have 2 successes. You meet your target number of 2, and you're going to succeed. You currently have the same number of 6s as your target number, and 1 re-roll left. There's a chance that you will roll a critical success. That second 6 entitled you to re-rolling 1 more failed dice. You re-roll that dice that had a 2 on it. It's also a 6. Oh my goodness. Now, with 3 6s, you have more 6s than your target number of 2, so you critically succeed on your hit and deal full damage. Every damage dice your weapon deals is a 6 of damage. Yay! Do always keep in mind, if half of any dice pool you roll are 1s, that is a critical failure. Section 4. How to use a skill. There are 30 skills in the base free LURPS rulebook. You can put character points into a skill to first initially gain access to the skill and then to level it up. Your maximum skill level is 7. To use a skill, roll as many dice as your level. That means the most dice you can roll for a skill is 7 dice. Here is an example of rolling your skill level number of dice. If your skill in identifying spells and arcane items is 4, then you would roll 4 dice. If your skill in sailing and vehicles is 3, then you'd roll 3 dice. Each skill has a table that tells you how to interpret how many successes you got, ranging from 1 to 4 successes. Here is an example of consulting your skill table. You have 5 ranks in the Barter and Appraise skill, so you roll 5d6 dice. If you get 1 success, the skill table says you get about a 5% discount. If 2 of your dice are successes, you get a 10% discount, and you would know the value of an item to within about 25% of its actual price. If you roll 3 successful dice, you get a 15% discount in the shop, and you know how rare an item is in this region. If you get 4 successful dice, you get a 20% discount, and you can persuade the merchant to deal with illegal goods. Each skill has its own interpretation table. When you put a point in a skill, add the skills table to your character sheet so you don't have to dig through the rulebook later. Section 5. How to attack. There are 6 combat skills in LURPS that you can put skill points in just like any other skill. These are slashing weapons, crushing weapons, piercing weapons, unarmed grappling, bows, and gunpowder. Like all the other skills, the maximum level for combat skills is also 7, which means you can roll 7 dice. There are tables of weapons starting on page 42. The table tells you the name of the weapon, the skill used to use the weapon, the weight of the weapon, how many hands it takes to use the weapon, how much damage the weapon deals, and a description of the weapon. The weight of the weapon determines its properties, so look at page 40 to understand your weapon. Light weapons need 2 successes in order to hit, and deal 1d6 of damage. Medium weapons need 3 successful dice in order to hit, and deal 2d6 of damage. Heavy weapons need 4 successful dice in order to hit, and deal 3d6 of damage. Here's an example weapon attack. You have a dagger and 5 levels in the piercing skill. You stab your dagger at an enemy. Roll 5 dice because that's your piercing skill's number of dice. Because the dagger is lightweight, you only need 2 successes. You roll a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, and a 5. The 4 and 5 are successes, so you hit your target number of 2, and the dagger embeds into your enemy. Roll 1d6 of damage. Great job! Section 6. Armor. Armor can protect you from physical damage in LURPS. Armor has 3 stat numbers, or letters, separated by forward slashes. The first number is how much coverage the armor gives you, which can range between 1 and 10. Coverage is how many dice you roll. The second number is the difficulty check, which is the pass or fail number for each dice. The third stat is a letter and represents the type of armor, like it protects you from piercing damage would be a P. Here's an example armor roll. You have 2 points of cover from your mithril plate armor with DC 3, and it protects you from piercing damage. The enemy is attacking you for 6 slashing damage with their axe. Roll your coverage number of dice, which is 2 dice. Every dice that gets a 3 or higher will meet to beat the DC of 3, reducing the incoming damage by 1 for each success. If that was piercing, each of your armor dice would be an automatic success. Section 7. Distances. There are 5 distances in LURPS: immediate, short, medium, long, and very far. Immediate means close enough to punch. Short distance is about how big a bedroom is. Medium distance is still close enough to hit with an arrow. Long means a few city blocks. Lastly, there's very far, which is like from here to that mountain on the horizon. Section 8. How to use magic. You can put your skill points in a specific school of magic if you want, just like a skill. There are 10 schools of magic. Putting a single skill point in the school gains you access to the full list of spells in that school of magic, and you can cast the spells from that school. By the way, the maximum number of skill points you can have in any skill or school of magic is 7. Here is how you would cast a spell. First, declare the name of the spell and the level you're casting it at. Then, spend the amount of mana needed to cast that level of a spell. Page 56 has a table that you will want to put on your character sheet if you're a magic caster that tells you how much mana gets spent at each level. Next, roll the number of dice you have in the School of Magic's skill. The spell's target number is the level you cast it at. If you have as many successful dice as your target number, the spell was cast successfully. Here is an example of casting a spell. Your character has 6 skill dice in the School of Healing and Abjuration. You declare that you are casting the spell Heal at 3rd level. The table on page 56 says 3rd level spells cost 6 mana, so you spend 6 mana, going down from 45 to 39 mana. You roll a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, and a 6. The target number is the spell's level. That's a 3 here because you rolled a 3rd level spell. The 4, 5, and 6 all meet a standard difficulty DC of 4. That's 3 successful dice, meeting your target number of 3. Excellent, you cast the spell. The person you're casting Heal on recovers 3d6 of damage, so you roll 3d6 and get a 9, so they recover 9 hit points. Let's talk about miscasting in LURPS. Miscasting is when you roll the number of dice that you have in the skill, and not only do you not get at least as many successful dice as the level of the spell, but also half or more of your dice pool consisted of 1s. Is half rounded down like 1 out of 3 dice, or rounded up like 2 out of 3 dice? I wasn't sure from reading the rulebook, so for this explanation, I'm going with the more exciting answer of rounding down. 1 out of 3 dice is half. For example, let's say you have 6 skill dice in the School of Healing and Abjuration. You declare that you're casting a level 4 heal spell. The target number is the spell's level, 4. Oops, you rolled a 1, a 3, a 4, a 5, and a 6. The 4, 5, and 6 all succeed. Hopefully that 6, which lets you re-roll any failed dice that wasn't a 1, gets you a 4th success. You re-roll the 3, but get another 1. Uh-oh, you didn't meet the spell's target number, and even worse, 3 of your 6 dice are 1s, so you critically fail and miscast. Consult the miscast table on page 69 to see what happens to you. If you're a magic user, I suggest putting this miscast table on your character sheet so you don't have to dig through the rulebook mid-session. So let's consult this table. The difference between the number of successes and your target was 1 dice, so that's a level 1 miscast. If it had been 2 dice, that would have been a level 2 miscast. There are 6 possible outcomes for each miscast level. Roll a d6 and see what happens instead of you casting your spell. Miscast outcomes range from minor, like the spell hitting a different target of your choice, to concerning, such as collapsing asleep for 1 hour per spell level, which can totally take you out of a fight, to downright lethal, such as taking 5 times the mana cost of the spell as lethal force damage. A level 5 miscast might even instantly slay your character and replace them with a greater demon who has 250 hit points and a good chance of killing your entire party. It's very unlikely that this will happen, but if it does, it's quite the story. Let's talk about resisting magic. You can cast lots of different types of magic in LURPS. You can blow thick smoke to obscure vision. You can firmly slap a piece of iron, steel, cobalt, or nickel to magnetize it. You can spray a geyser of flammable, slippery oil. Not every spell prompts a resistance roll from its target, but if there is one, it means the person you're trying to hex gets to roll a single dice in their own defense. There is a table on page 56 that has a column labeled resist. Or you can remember that the resistance number is 1 higher than the spell level number. Or you can use the table. For example, at level 3, the target rolling to resist succeeds if they roll a 4. This means that any 4, 5, or 6 on their single resistance dice will succeed. If they resist successfully, the spell will clarify what happens to them. For example, they don't go blind or don't become stunned or don't fall asleep. When a trap calls for you to resist it, it's the same thing. A single dice will determine if you resisted or not. Let's talk about magic damage. There's a sentence in this LURPS rulebook that I will read for you. Quote, "Only air and lightning, fire and light, and necromancy and enchantment spell schools deal magic damage." End quote. Those are the only 3 schools that can deal magic damage. The other schools of magic have other effects and lots of them. But let's spend this moment talking about those 3 schools, the magic damage ones. When you buy even 1 skill point in a magic school, you have full access to its entire spell list. It's your choice what level you choose to cast each spell at. Casting a spell at higher level means more damage. There's a table on page 56 that you'll be wanting to put on your character sheet if you use one of those 3 schools of magic. The table has the spell level, the mana cost, the damage dealt, and the resist difficulty. Here is an example of casting a spell from one of the 3 magic damage schools. Your character has 5 dice in the skill for the School of Fire and Light Magic. You have access to fully all of the spells on that spell list, and can choose which level to cast them at. The target number of successes you need to roll to cast it is equal to the spell's level. To cast a level 3 spell, you would roll your 5 skill dice and hope that at least 3 of them are a 4, a 5, or a 6. If not, it's a failure. If half of your dice pool consists of 1s, that's a critical failure, which when rolling to cast a spell means a miscast. But let's say you succeed. You rolled your 5 dice, and 3 of the dice show a 4 or higher, meeting your target number. The table shows that casting a level 3 spell from the Fire and Light School of Magic will cost you 6 mana and will deal 3d6 of damage. You can roll 3d6 dice now, and that's how much damage the target is about to take. That's a lot of damage, by the way. Section 9. Flaws. Flaws are fun role-playing opportunities. You can invoke a flaw during gameplay to gain inspiration. Describe how your flaw makes the situation worse in a real way, not just a convenient way, to gain an inspiration. Later, spend your inspiration to turn any check into a DC 2, meaning the number you have to roll on the dice to succeed is a 2 instead of the standard 4. Only rolling a 1 fails when you have inspiration. Here is an example. Your flaw is that you are a clean freak. Instead of getting ready for your friend to come over your house, being a difficulty of 4, for you, the clean freak, you spend 2 extra hours cleaning everything. This impacts the story because it means you didn't spend those 2 hours doing your homework, and now you'll face the consequences of that not being done. Your game master awards you inspiration, which you can spend later to make any roll a difficulty check of 2 instead of the standard 4. The only dice that will fail on a DC of 2 is if you roll a 1. Later, you're in class and you got a 0 on your homework because you quickly scribbled nonsense on it. The teacher snarks at you in front of everyone. After class, you make a skill check, a diplomacy and persuasion skill roll, on your crush, asking them to tutor you in the library later to help you raise your grade. Your diplomacy and persuasion skill is not high, only a 3. A 3 in the diplomacy and persuasion skill means you only have 3 dice to roll. Normally, with a standard difficulty check of 4, meaning only 4s on the dice succeed, it's risky to hope to hit the target number of 2 you'd need to persuade this absolute stranger who you think is cute to spend their valuable time tutoring you. Are you cute enough yourself? The skill is how you find out. You spend your inspiration, changing that DC from 4 to 2, and as a result, all 3 of your diplomacy dice succeed. You hit that target number of 2, and you two cute people review the course material together and learn a bit more about each other. That's nice. To summarize this example, invoking a flaw has to have a real consequence on the story, genuinely creating trouble for yourself. If you do really make life harder for yourself, your game master might grant you inspiration, which can be spent later on a future roll to make sure you succeed when it really matters to you. Section 10. Building a LURPS character uses its classless point-buy system. Any character can use points to buy any skill. You're not locked out of pickpocketing abilities because you're a priest, or locked out of axe-wielding abilities because you're a slender elf. Buy what you want. You can spend your character points on stats, skills, or feats. The rulebook suggests spending 1/3 of your character points on stats, and the other 2/3 on skills. Every 1 character point can be spent to gain either 5 stat points or 1 skill point. You are technically allowed to spend 2 character points to buy a feat, but it's recommended that you do this alternative. The alternative is that you can gain 2 flaws to gain 1 feat. A character can have a maximum of 4 flaws and 2 feats gained this way. And you should, because flaws are fun role-playing opportunities. Stats. There are 3 stats. You can spend a character point to get 5 stat points. The first stat is hit points, abbreviated HTP. If you spend a character point, you get 5 hit points. If your hit points reach 0 during a combat, your character falls unconscious. If your HTP reaches -half of the maximum, your character dies. For example, your character has 20 HTP. If you reach 0, you fall unconscious. If you reach -10, you would die. Pretty simple. The second stat is magical power, or mana, abbreviated MAN. If you spend a character point, you get 5 mana. You spend mana to cast spells. When mana reaches 0, you're out of magical power and can't cast any more spells. The more mana you have, the more spells you can cast before you get tired. Mana refreshes when your character sleeps for a full night's rest. The third and last stat is speed or special. It's abbreviated SPE. If you spend a character point, you get 5 SPE. You can spend SPE to swing an extra attack on your turn, or to make sure you succeed by rolling extra dice, or to move further by gaining extra movement. There's a table on how many SPE you spend to get an extra attack, extra dice, or extra movement on page 7, and honestly, you're gonna need a copy of that table in front of you to play LURPS. I recommend putting that SPE table from page 7 on your character sheet so you know how much to spend and what you can get. Freebies! There are some character points that all player and non-player characters start with. Everyone starts with 2 character points and hit points, mana, and special. 1 character point becomes 5 stat points. That means everyone starts with 10 HTP, 10 MAN, and 10 SPE. Everyone also starts at rank 2 in 2 free skills, unarmed, and an additional combat skill of your choice. That means whenever you make an unarmed attack, you roll 2 dice. These freebie starting character points aren't subtracted from your total character points. It's similar to starting at level 1 in another game. Spending character points to gain skills when building your character can be simple or realistic. You have a maximum of 7 ranks in a skill. That means you can roll a maximum of 7 dice. In the simple skill leveling system, improving from rank 1 to rank 2 costs 1 character point, and improving from rank 2 to rank 3 still costs 1 character point. Every level increase costs 1 character point all the way up. In the realistic skill leveling system, it costs more character points to level up a rank 6 skill into a max rank 7 skill. The realistic skill level up option is there for people who enjoy how in video games it's easy to level up in the beginning, but then the level ups need more and more experience, and it takes quite a lot of experience to reach max level. Both systems exist, and the Game Master can pick the skill level up system they like best. The players in my upcoming game will all be at maximum power level. For LURPS, I estimate that you can achieve maximum strength if you build a character using 60 character points. That's probably max. It's certainly very powerful. Use the simple skill cost guide. That means you spend 1 character point to increase a skill by 1 level, regardless of if that's going from 1 to 2 skill dice or going from 6 to 7 skill dice. Since we're playing a one-shot, and your character doesn't have money, you can spend character points 1 for armor coverage points, equipment, and upgrading weapon materials. Hopefully this little rules chat helps my players build their characters and understand how to play. For everyone listening, if you'd like to hear an example adventure, the episode of Firebreathing Kittens podcast right after this is a demonstration of us playing LURPS in a one-shot game session. We invite you to listen to it to hear an example of LURPS in action. We encourage you to find the LURPS book yourself and play a game with friends.